Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I am doing a book review on Damsel by Alana K. Arnold. Now, this book. To start, I gave it 4 stars because I did ultimately enjoy it. The cover is beautiful, although that's not part of the reason why I gave it 4 stars. This is a reworking of the Dragon Takes a Damsel Captive in a Tower fairy tale. And I don't know if there's a specific name for that fairy tale, but, you know, it's everywhere. There's a damsel in a tower guarded by a dragon, you know, Shrek kind of a thing. So, we have our 2 main characters, Prince Emery, who is the one who is sent to go slay the dragon and save the damsel, and Amma, who is the damsel that the prince rescues. I love the actual writing in this because, and I have to read you the first paragraph because I think it's beautiful. This is actually what I think is whimsical writing. The castle seemed to grow from the cliffs that cupped the shoreline. Its jagged peaked turrets pierced the rain-heavy clouds above. Its windows were gaping mouths and gored-out eyes. Between the slate-gray cliffs and the smoke-gray sky and the churning gray sea and the ghost-gray mist, it was a gray place indeed. It was so thoroughly gray that a traveler who lost his way could be blinded by it, by the overwhelming grayness that permeated everything, erasing vision entirely. Stay too long in this gray world, the legend went, and risk your eyes turning gray too. Risk your skin growing ashen, risk your hair dulling to iron. Yes, it was a gray world. And I love that entry into this world. I think it's fantastic. Now, outside of that, the rest of this review is going to be full of spoilers because I can't discuss my real feelings for this book without all of the spoilers. I am literally going to read you the last several paragraphs of this book because they're dialogue, because I can't not. So if you don't want spoilers for this book, just know that there is sexual assault in here and a lot of non-consensual groping. Just not great. But beyond that, it's a fun read, for sure. Just as long as you know that. Now, onto the spoilery bits. So our Prince Emery climbs up this cliff wall and goes into the castle. He had been told by his mother, who was also a damsel, because the thing with this kingdom is, sometime eons back, the king apparently rescued a damsel from a dragon, brought her back to his palace, married her, made her queen, as you do, and then she gave birth to a son who grew up and went off to slay his own dragon and save the damsel, and the cycle went on. It turns out that every damsel only has one kid, and it's always a son, and he always, in order to be king, has to go slay a dragon and save a damsel of his own. There's the background. So Emery climbs up this cliff in this very grey world and goes and slays the dragon. He was told by his mother that he needed his intelligence, his sword? Yep, his brain, his sword, and a third thing that she never told him. And you're not entirely sure until the end of the book. So he goes in and he figures out that the dragon can't see anything but bright light. So he covers himself in ashes so that the dragon can't see him. He manages to stab the dragon where it's soft, and then that's his intelligence and his sword. We don't know what the third thing is still because we just flash forward to him carrying Amma down the cliff. She's naked because I don't know why. He gives her clothes to cover up, and then she gets a fever, so he has to break the fever. He does that. And she has no memory of anything before waking up in Emery's arms climbing down the cliff. No memory of anything. They get back to the castle and they start presenting her as his queen-to-be. His mother is still there. She has so many cats, and she's told that she has to behave this way or things will not go well. She also has a pet lynx because Emery killed its mother on her behalf. She didn't want him to kill it, but he thought it was attacking her, even though it wasn't because he's an idiot, and so killed the mother, and then she took the cub with her. Emery's not big on the cub because it tries to protect her when he assaults her the first night in the castle. And then he says that by the time they get married, that lynx will be gone. Turns out that it is, because the lynx gets trained not to attack, and then she hits it at one point, so yeah, trigger warning, animal abuse, with a whip to make it behave the way she wants. She doesn't like it, and then the lynx just becomes despondent, and so eventually she sets it free because she recognizes that that's what is supposed to happen, and she realizes that wild animals shouldn't be kept in cages. The entire time she's trying to figure out what it is she can't remember, because there's something just on the edge of her consciousness, and occasionally she remembers these really vivid, colorful glimpses, but she doesn't know exactly what they are. She just remembers vivid colors. So we go through this book where Emery is basically trying to manipulate her. There's some serious emotional manipulation and, if not abuse, in this book as well. He tries to manipulate her into being exactly who he wants. At one point he puts a leash around her neck and leads her through the castle because he's an asshole. And his mother is okay with this because this is just what happens. The damsels have to adjust. It's something. There are some good lines in here, and it's very interesting to watch Amma try to find herself in this. She tries to find herself in animals, but she doesn't really want any of them except her pet lynx, who eventually goes away. But then she hears about this glassblower, and exploring the castle one day, she finds him down in like the basement of the castle. And this glassblower has been making glass eyes for eons, and his father before him, and his father before him, on and on and on. And nobody else can make the glass eyes. And all of the glass eyes that he makes go on the outside of the walls of the city, and they keep watch. If you steal an eye, because they're said to grant wishes, basically, then when you are caught, as everybody ever who stole an eye has been, they rely on the eye for an eye sort of a thing, and so you lose an eye. It's very interesting, that part. But she goes down to the glass blower as we're getting closer to the wedding, and she finds a release there. It's warm there, and because it's winter at the time that this book happens, she's been getting colder and colder and colder. And they remember this happening with the Queen Mother, Emery's mom. When she first arrived, she just kept getting colder and colder and colder, and now she keeps her rooms sweltering hot. And so she says that they have to keep Amma hot as well. And eventually, like I said, Amma goes down and finds the glass blower, and she just sits there in front of the glass furnace. And it's warm, and so she starts regaining her color, and she is brainwashed into believing that it's okay that Emery is groping her all the time. There's definitely a non-consensual handjob that happens, which was also a really weird thing. He says that she owes him for saving her again because she stole an eye from the wall when her lynx went missing, and it was brought back, and he says she owes him for not ratting her out that she stole the eye because he knew. She doesn't really do anything because she doesn't know how to not, and she has been told repeatedly by everybody in the castle that she has to accept this and that this is what she's here for, so she does. Back to the glass blower. She's down there, and eventually she decides she wants to learn how to blow glass, and she just looks at the glass blower and says, "I am your queen-to-be, teach me how to do this." So he does. And then she burns herself, and so Emery forbids her from returning there for a while, but then something happens and he allows her to go back. So she goes back, and she starts making this sculpture out of shattered glass pieces. She's literally picking up vases or cups or whatever that are the color she wants, dropping them on the floor, and then using those shards to make this sculpture. It's from something in her head, but she doesn't know what. It's one of those like subconscious things that happens sometimes if you get really involved in art and you're not really sure where it's coming from, but all of a sudden there it is, and it's beautiful. So she's making this and making this over the last week before her wedding, and Emery doesn't really care anymore because it's about to be their wedding, the lynx is gone, his bride is beautiful, and that's all he really cares about because he's an idiot. He comes down the morning of their wedding and finds the glassblower and Amma in the glassblower's workshop, staring at an exquisite, beautiful dragon made out of glass. It is opaline, and it has red golden eyes, and her eyes are amber gold, and they switched to black, and the Queen Mother's eyes went from amber to black when she came, right after the wedding. Amma is down there and she's looking at it, and Emery just gets pissed. He crashes the statue on the floor. He just wipes it off the table. She freaks out and he growls at her that they're going to get married. And so she gets really pissed, and at this point she's remembered who she is and what happens. And so they have this whole big conversation where she says, I'm going to walk out right now and you're gonna let me. And as long as you don't hunt the lynx that I released, I'll go in peace. You tell me you're gonna hunt her and I'll kill you. And he just sort of laughs it off and basically, ha ha ha, you have no power here. I can do what I want because I'm the guy and this is a man's world and you have nothing to do. She says, oh yes, I'll get to that. So you remember he had 3 weapons to slay the dragon. And he has destroyed the dragon, and she says, I too have 3 weapons and glasses but one of them. So he hits her and she says, hit me again. You know, like one of those warning things when you just see somebody and they've reached that point. So this is one of my favorite parts of the book, if not the favorite part. So, last page, this is why the spoilers were here. It mattered not. Emery lunged again, and this time she was quicker, deftly sidestepping his fist, the spike-sharp tip of her weapon entering his chest just beneath his ribcage. She drew it upward like a filleting knife, opening Emery wide. He stumbled back, his mouth in a surprised round O, hands reaching up to try to close himself like a jacket, but his life's blood spilling, pouring, and he fell to the ground among the splintered remains of Amma's self-portrait. One should not make a pet out of a wild beast, Amma said. She mounted Emery, knelt over him, and ignoring his batting, bloodied hand, she'd reached into his chest, pulled open his mortal wound, and extracted his still beating heart. It pulsed in her palm, and Amma bit into it like a ripe plum. Which is just the perfect whacked out ending for the greatest whacked out book. Now, the biggest whacked out part of all of this, now that you know the summary, is how prominently Emery's dick features in this book. There are no actual descriptions. There is the sexual assault the first night she's in the castle, and then after that she just puts up with his groping because, again, brainwashed. And then towards the end of the book, the last 50 pages or so, when she starts to make her dragon and starts figuring out who she is, she starts remembering weird things. And so right before she eats Emery's beating heart, they have this massive fight which culminates in him crashing her dragon, where it turns out, oh god, and you'll remember the hand job too, it turns out, this is ludicrous and disgusting and weird, and I don't even know what to do with it, but here we are. So it turns out that his third weapon, he had his brain, he had his sword, he also had his dick. And it gets better, because instead of just fucking the dragon, you know, like a normal animal, turns out he apparently had to fuck the wound that he had caused. So he outsmarts the dragon by covering himself in ash, right? Stabs the dragon right behind the arm where the soft spot is, like when the dragon stretches out. And then when the dragon pulls that out and the dragon is just sitting there, for some reason, we never really got that explained, trying to not hurt, he walks up, unfastens his trousers, and fucks her wound, and then releases his seed into her, and that's how we get her turning into a human. I still can't believe that anybody came up with this. It is hilarious and mind-boggling and, again, disgusting and wrong on so many levels, but it is the greatest reworking of the Dragon and Damsel story I think I've ever read. There's a lot of them, and I adore talking to dragons. That will always be my top one, because there's no dicks in that one. This one just I have never read a story where in 300 pages, one man's dick comes up so many times. So many times. And it's just hilarious to me. And so after reading that, when we got to the part where she beats his bloody heart, I just started laughing because I still wasn't entirely sure what I had read. Again, I gave it 4 stars because I enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed the world. I thought she did a good job building the world and building the legends on which it was founded. And at one point as well, the Queen Mother, so when the new queen is wed to the prince who saved her, the Queen Mother dies because there can only be one dragon, not dragon, alive at a time. And the Queen Mother says that it's unfortunate, but this is what happens. Shouldn't really want to die, but again, this is what happens. And it's a man's world, so we just have to accept our lot. But then she says, I never got a chance to see what it would be like, what I could do as a queen with power. And I like that with Emery dead and Amma gone, the Queen Mother will be alive and she can take over. So it'd be very interesting to see a book from her point of view after this one. It was just, I think probably my favorite part besides the writing in this book was just how out there it really was. I mean, who thinks that fucking a wound turns a dragon into a damsel? Like, that is some crazy shit right there. And it's fantastic. Again, it is, I don't know that I would classify this as YA because of how much Emery's dick is in here. Or at least not the younger end of YA. I'd probably put this at 17 or 18, maybe right on the cusp of new adult. But then again, I was a very sheltered child and I'm very used to things like The Hunger Games or Divergent or Graceling, none of which have really any of this. It's more of the fade out type of stuff. So maybe it's just where YA is going more. I don't know. But, boy, was this book something. Now you understand why I had to do a separate video on this, because you had to know the full story in order to understand where the dick came from and why I can't quite wrap my mind around what happened. Again, I love the ending. I love that it's this woman who's trying to figure herself out in a very male-dominated space and then figures it out and just says, I'm out of here, because she doesn't want to be what he desires her to be, and if he's gonna be that much of an asshole and not let her go at all, she's just gonna kill him because that's in her nature. So I really liked that. I liked the way it took the dragon and damsel myth and completely reworked it and changed it into something I would never have expected. But that is all I'm gonna say about this book. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think down below or on Twitter, whatever works, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.